You're actually good on that because they're probably not making another movie for a while since they're signed on to do the Moon Knight Disney Plus series. Drive-by movies, you're watching.
Fresh releases.
My name is Blaze.
My name is James.
And this week we're talking the brand new film, Synchronic.
The time is an illusion.
Synchronic is a new movie from Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, who brought us one of my favorite movies of recent years, Spring. It's about two New Orleans paramedics whose lives are ripped apart after they encounter a series of horrific deaths linked to a designer drug with bizarre, otherworldly effects. So I was super excited for Synchronic. I'd say this is my number one most anticipated movie from 2020. Unfortunately, it didn't get released till recently. It did play at a few film festivals. Beyond Fest, one of my favorite LA film festivals. It did have it last year at their drive-in, but their drive-in was set up all the way in Pomona, so just didn't work out for me to go last year, which really bummed me out. But finally, it's out on video on demand. If you're not familiar with these two co-directors' work, like I said earlier, Spring, one of my favorite movies from recent years in the horror genre. Really enjoyed The Endless. That was their most recent flick. We saw a little cameo from one of the directors in The Endless last year, one of our first fresh release movies that we've checked out. But Synchronic, I'm excited to talk about it. What do you think about it, Blaze?
I'd say I agree with you. I was a huge fan of these two directors and their kind of style, their, kind of interesting, tight screenplay with cool cinematography for the most part, and very low budget films. I think my favorite film of theirs, obviously you mentioned earlier, was Spring. It just has beautiful cinematography, awesome coloring, and has a really interesting story with some cool effects that really catch your eye when it's such a low budget movie. These awesome, cool effects. So this is kind of their film where they're taking it to a more mainstream audience and still utilizing very awesome effects. I thought some of the effects in this movie were really well done, really cool. And the only part that I feel like just kind of fell off for me was the character development and the writing so much. I didn't feel like the writing was as tight as some of their other films, and I feel like it suffered trying to bring the same kind of formula they worked on in their previous films to a more mainstream audience. I don't think this movie was bad. I just felt like it could have been tighter. It felt like, I think the movie's only an hour and like 39 minutes or something like that, and it did feel a lot longer than that, which was confusing. I was like, wait, this isn't that long. Maybe it's actually kind of shorter, but it felt a bit longer, I felt like.
Yeah, luckily it did feel pretty short for me. I was really invested into it and was really enjoying it, but kind of like Us, I guess you could say, is I thought it's a very high ambitious movie, script wise and story wise, and I was all for it. But as I started to think about it more, I was just like, this is a little cheesy and stuff. Like, I overall still enjoyed it and did like it, but I think I put these two directors too high of a pedestal. I'm not saying like I'm going to hold this against them for their next movie. I just feel like it is not their best made movie, and I'd say overall it's a script problem with this movie. I thought certain things could have been fleshed out a little bit more. I liked the simplicity of Possessor that came out last year. Not a whole lot is given to you. But there's like certain aspects with like the drug related stuff in this movie where I was just like, okay, it's just like full on sci-fi and stuff, but it just like, I couldn't really like get behind how dorky it kind of was. Like, I really love some of the sequences we get. My favorite scene is when Anthony Mackie, like, just like kind of spoiler alert, but like Synchronic is a drug that everyone's taking. They're paramedics. They're seeing all these people overdosing on this. Or are they? We find out that it's like a time travel drug, and I'm all for that. It's such a cool concept, but like I would think it would work better if it was like a drug that made you feel like you're time traveling, but no, it's literally you're time traveling and stuff. And I'm not sure if that was just like a little too ambitious for me, I thought, and was just too far of a stretch to where it just like didn't work for me. And then also I thought like Jamie Dornan's character was kind of underdeveloped for the most part.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with those points. I do think Jamie Dornan's character really was underdeveloped and underutilized. Like, he has kind of an interesting family dynamic and like friendship with Anthony Mackie's character, but most of the movie is like Anthony Mackie kind of struggling with the fact that, you know, he's not going to be on this earth that much longer, and he really wants to help his best friend, but like still keeping a lot of the fact that he's been diagnosed with cancer like to himself, kind of. So because he's like kind of struggling with that. And then also Jamie Dornan is going through some things with his daughter missing. There's a lot of like inner character and inner relationship developments that I feel like were good, but just we didn't actually get to dive too much into those characters to, you know, really get invested in the story. And that's kind of the issues. I felt like we spend too much time when Anthony Mackie's like traveling back in time, making this video log and like really like heavy-handedly explaining it, like everything about this movie to the audience, which is totally the opposite of these directors' last movie, The Endless. I felt like that was one where like you almost need to see it a third time to get it. like it's like the polar opposite of this movie, where like there's really no way you could get through this film and not understand what the drug Synchronic does. It's like,
which is funny also because The Endless was a sequel, correct, to their first movie, but I went in not knowing that whatsoever, and I think a lot of audience members did kind of go in, but they were like, eventually, like if you did the research, you found out that it was like kind of related to their first movie, but it still worked on its own. But like for some reason, there's stuff missing from this movie, it feels like.
Yeah, and I do want to kind of mention the fact that you said you didn't want to like, you know, be harsh on their next movie whenever they come out with the new movie. But I have something to tell you. You're actually good on that, because they're probably not making another movie for a while, since they're signed on to do the Moon Knight Disney Plus series.
This is a drive-by exclusive, my reaction to my favorite upcoming directors getting they sign their soul away. Oh my god.
No, becoming part of the Marvel machine. And well, I mean, you love Moon Knight though. He's one of your favorite superheroes, right? Marvel's Moon Knight.
I know who Moon Knight is, but nothing drives me crazier than all these people trying to act like they know all about superheroes now just because the Marvel Cinematic Universe is, you know, it's the national phenomenon that like is going crazy within this country. And, you know, all for it. I hate like hating on it. It's just not for me and stuff. And just like, I really hate to see two really talented writer directors get like, you know, they're just hire for, you know, what's the pay for it?
They're
like,
director for hire, but also like they're getting swallowed up into like the corporate machine of now just making Marvel content. But hey, they could be the next Russo brothers for all we know. Look at how talented the Russo brothers are, and like basically they came out of nowhere and you know, they made Endgame and Civil War and all the, you know, major heavy hitters for the MCU. So these could be the next Russo brothers. There's two directors, so I feel like it's likely.
Yeah, I mean, if they do that, I hope that they drop off after season 1 and get to make whatever the hell horror film or indie movies they want to make after. But you know, congrats to them. They made it big. That's the dream, I guess. But just like, I'm sad to hear that and stuff. Did not expect it.
Yeah, it's a little upsetting that every time like a new director or something comes out, they make a couple indie movies, and then finally, you know, the machine kind of discovers them and just swallows them whole, and then we have less indie directors, I guess. But I mean, you can't really make a living being an indie director, so that's kind of the reality of it.
Yeah, it's just like I wish, like, what's it called? Everything has to be a cinematic universe these days, and Universal's trying to make their cinematic universe. I'm glad that they had a hit with last year's Invisible Man. I really enjoyed that and stuff. Like, I would have rather have seen them go mainstream with the movie for Universal and Blumhouse, for whatever Universal monster they did. But kudos to them. But like, I guess. Yeah, we're getting sidetracked, I guess, from Synchronic, but
a little.
Yeah, that's an interesting conversation, though, and very related, though.
Yeah, a little sidetracked, but I would say one of the major things for me, honestly, about this movie, I didn't realize it was pronounced Synchronic. I was thinking it was like, oh, maybe it's like Synchronique. Like, I guess it never really occurred to me that chronic was such a thing about this movie. We all know what chronic is. I really wish I saw just like Synchronic wasn't just a pill. I wish it was just like some huge juicy nugs and you had to rip it out of a fat bong to like go travel back in time in 7 minutes. It gave me the ideas of like my sequel with Harold and Kumar 3. I was like, oh, I've thought about this before, but I think that like just a little nitpick. I was like, don't even bother calling it like Synchronic if it's just gonna be a pill. Come on, guys. Even they kept referencing DMT, and even that's something that you have to smoke. Come on. Like a pill, like it's not gonna instantly get into your bloodstream. That's why like just stupid little drug things that like could have been utilized. But I understand like they can't just have a massive bong in this movie if they're trying to be like mainstream appeal.
Yeah. I really like the concept, though, of paramedics. Like, now I want to see a horror film that revolves around 2 paramedics following like a murder spree or something like that, or like a crazy monster. Yeah. Like, I thought that like that's a dynamic I haven't really seen in too many movies, or of course used to seeing cops and stuff. But I really enjoyed that aspect of it and stuff. And there's a lot of stuff that isn't related to Synchronic. Like, there's that guy with the broken leg and stuff. Like, he's obviously tripping on something, but it's not Synchronic, though. But that was like a trippy scene and stuff. And then also someone got killed by the sword from Synchronic, but then there's also a heroin overdose in the other room of that building. Like, that scene was intense, and like the opening also is fantastic. There's a lot of great moments within this movie. I'm definitely going to recommend it to check it out. Like, it's still a movie like I enjoyed, but it's just I went in with too high hopes, I'd say.
Yeah, I really love that opening scene with the 2 paramedics kind of entering that house and these people that are just tripping out on heroin or whatever. And later on, we find one of them did Synchronic. And I do like that dynamic between the 2 paramedics that, they're so entwined in each other's lives. They're like best friends. And I love that character dynamic between the 2. And hopefully we get more movies with paramedics. I think maybe the next Doctor Strange movie, there'll be some paramedics in the multiverse. So maybe we'll get some more paramedic stories. You never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the movie's available to rent right now. That's a great way to help us out. Rent it through our Amazon affiliate link in our description box below. After doing that, leave a comment letting us know what you thought about this movie. Was this a crazy concept? Did you enjoy it? Let us know. Let's keep the conversation going.
Anyways, guys, smash that like button if you haven't already, and go ahead and hit the subscribe button and click that notification bell to get all of our latest updates.
Also, if you can't get enough of us here on YouTube, we are on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Check all our links down below. And that's going to conclude this week's episode. Tune in next week for a brand new episode of Fresh Releases.